Hey everybody, how's it going? Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Tech Tips. Today we're going to be talking about how to install either our low pro rails or our suppressor ready rails using the newly included anti-pull-off tabs that are now shipping with these rails. Both processes are very similar, so we'll kind of jump into the low pro one first, and then I'll show you how to do the SR one at the second half. So whether you're installing a low pro or a suppressor ready rail, the tools you're gonna need are gonna be the same, and everything you're gonna need is gonna come in the box with the rail when you buy it. So included with the box, you'll have your rail. This one has our rail shield panels and the M2 iron sights on it. If you buy one new, it's just gonna come naked like this SR rail. You'll get your barrel nut corresponding to whichever rail you purchased, a anti-pull-off tab, again corresponding to whichever rail you purchased, and then 4 T15 torque screws. You'll also get a small tube of blue Loctite, which we recommend using for the smaller screws to make sure everything holds tight. Additional tools that'll make this a lot easier and more effective would be a torque wrench that reads in inch-pounds with a T15 driver, and then a larger torque wrench that reads in foot-pounds with one of our Armor's wrenches that has the geometry to interface with either the low pro nut or the SR nut. So first step in this process, if you're replacing a rail that you already have on your AR-15, is going to be to remove that old rail. Usually it's just a couple of screws and then it slides off the end. Remove your gas block and gas tube. If it's pinned, you're going to have to pound out that gas tube. So we do recommend having a hammer, a punch, and any Allen wrenches that will fit the set screws on the gas block. That'll make things a lot easier for you. Once you get your gas block and tube removed, pull that off and then remove the old barrel nut from the barrel. For the interest of time, I already set this one up with the low pro barrel nut. I've torqued this down to the recommended 55 foot-pounds using our torque wrench here. And then I've gone ahead and installed the gas block, the gas tube, and I've set screws and put the punch in to hold the gas block in place. All right, so to install the low pro rail, we're gonna take our rail here once we have this all set up and torqued down properly. The laser mark and the screws always go to the rear of the firearm. You're simply gonna slide this over your barrel, over the barrel nut, and then just push it flush against your upper here. And you just wanna make sure that you're tight against the upper and you don't have any twisting going on. So just take some time, make sure everything's perfectly lined up and flush. And then what I like to do is grab one of these T15 screws and your wrench, apply a little bit of blue Loctite to the threads, and then I'm just simply going to thread one of these in and just snug it up. I'll show you what I'm doing in a second, but this will just hold your rail to the barrel, just to make sure it's not twisting around on you when you're doing kind of these next steps. So once that's kind of snug, it's not gonna move on you. You can go ahead and flip your gun over, tighten that back down, and we will grab our anti-pull-off tab here. And as you can see, we'll show you a close-up on this. There are two small tabs sticking out here and then the grooves for the screws. These two small tabs will interface with the grooves on the barrel nut for the low pro rail, and same thing for the SR rail, just a slightly different design on the tab there. So you're gonna grab your shim, you're gonna take it, put it in this orientation so the two small tabs are towards the front muzzle end of the gun, and you're just gonna wedge this in until you feel it kind of drop into those grooves. And you might have to kind of loosen up this back screw a little bit to get it in there. But once you get it in, it should drop right into place. And there we go. So you can feel it dropped in flush. I got wiggle room, but it's not interfering with any of the screw holes. So at that point, if you want to rotate, you can do that to make these screws a little more accessible, or just leave it where it is. Take your torque wrench, set to 30 inch-pounds for these 4 screws. That's the recommended torque rating. And then just go one by one, little blue Loctite on the threads, and just thread it until it's snug. I like to snug them up, get them all in there, and then go back and torque them all down. Just to get an even distribution of pressure. I like to think of it kind of like a car tire. So that's how you install a low pro rail. Next I'm going to jump into showing you how to actually remove the barrel nut, swap the barrel nut, and then put on the SR rail. The process for putting on the SR rail is almost exactly the same as the low pro rail, just a slightly different barrel nut style and pull-off tab. All right, so if you're interested in swapping a pre-existing rail and going to one of ours, this part will show you how to take off your old rail, take off your barrel nut, gas block if you need to, and swap out all those parts for the new SR rail. So first step, obviously remove your old rail. Usually it's just a couple screws. On this one, our low pro, we have 4 T15 screws at the bottom that you're gonna wanna break loose. And that will allow you to slide the rail off of the barrel. So once you have all the screws removed, you can usually just pull off that rail. For us, we had the shim in there, so that'll just kind of fall out, and that'll allow you to then pull off the rail. The next step you're gonna wanna do if you're swapping out an old rail is you're gonna have to get your gas block, gas tube off so you can get to that barrel nut and be able to pull it off the end of the rail. In the case of our gas blocks, we do pin them, so you're gonna have to take a punch and a hammer and just very gently but firmly there you go. And that will allow you to then loosen up the set screws on the gas block and you'll be able to pull it all off. These are usually just hand tight, so they shouldn't be very difficult to remove. I believe this is a 5/64 Allen key for ours specifically, but yours might be different. Once you have everything loosened, you'll be able to slide that gas block off of your barrel and take the gas tube with it. This you can just set aside, and then we'll work on the barrel nut here. Again, one of our armor wrenches works great for our stuff. Otherwise, you should have one for whatever rail you have on hand. And you're just gonna wanna break this loose. Usually a pretty tight torque on these, so you might have to get some leverage. There we go. That will allow you to pull off the old barrel nut and just slide that off and get rid of it. Then to swap, this is the same process. If you were swapping out for a low pro, you'd obviously be putting this one on, but we're gonna be doing the SR now, so you'll just simply throw this over, tighten this down, and then we're going to torque both of these barrel nuts to 55 foot-pounds. So use a big wrench, get this on there. Find the grooves. There we go. And we're gonna torque this to 55. There we go. And then you can go ahead and reinstall your gas block and gas tube, repin it if you need to, and just make sure everything's flush. There are these grooves cut in these cooling fins, so just make sure that you have that lined up with where the gas block is going to be running, or the gas tube, sorry, is going to be running, because on the SR rail, this one will have to kind of fit in that groove. The low pro, it's not an issue, it can go over it. So I'll do that here quick and we'll pick up. All right, so I've just got done reinstalling my gas block. I've set the screws and then I've put the pin back in to hold everything in place. You can see the gas tube is running cleanly through the grooves in the fins on the barrel nut, right into the gas port, so we're good there. Everything's lined up properly. So you can go ahead, rotate this back around to the upright position. And then from here, it's pretty much the same exact process for the SR rails. So we're gonna take the rail, again, laser side to the back, slide this over, make sure everything is nice and lined up and tight. You don't want any gaps or twisting. And then we're gonna grab that one screw again, little blue Loctite on the threads. Same torque spec, 30 inch-pounds. But for now, I'm just going to put this in and snug it up to hold this all straight and aligned while I'm moving it around. So now that'll hold in place. I can go ahead and flip this all the way over to put the anti-pull-off tab in there. Again, you might have to kind of loosen this back one just a little bit so you can wiggle that shim in there. And this one is going to interface the exact same way as it does on the Low Pro. There's 2 grooves in the SR barrel nut that this will slide right into again. So again, same orientation, small tabs towards the muzzle end of the firearm. And we're just going to drop this in place, try to keep everything straight. If it ends up wiggling on you, that's fine. Just get that shim in there and you can flip it back over and tighten that one screw up to just keep it all in place. So we'll do that this time. So it's dropped into that groove. I can feel it's locked in there. It's not moving or pulling or anything like that. And then we'll be able to just snug this back up and just check to make sure everything is straight and aligned again. There we go. And then from here, it's the exact same process. A little blue Loctite on the threads, snug all the screws in place, and then go back and torque them all to that 30 inch-pounds that we did before. And that's really all there is to it. You've now installed either your SR or your low pro rail. Everything's torqued properly, blue Loctited, and you have the anti-pull-off tab in there just for an added layer of security. As long as you've followed these instructions and you've torqued everything to the proper specs, remember 55 foot-pounds for the barrel nut and 30 inch-pounds for these 4 screws, you should have no issues with anything rotating or coming loose or sliding off for the life of the rail. Thank you guys very much for tuning in this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next time.